What's going on, everyone? My name is Will from Ghost Hack, and welcome to the next episode in the series where I'm showing you how to make a dubstep track, or more specifically, how to start making a dubstep track. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be working on the intro, and the intro it's very important. And when I say intro, I'm not meaning everything up until the drop. What I'm meaning is the actual intro part of the intro. Then in the last episode, the next episode, we are going to go over the build up into the drop. So just how your song starts, all the way up through the drop. That is what this series is covering, just starting a dubstep track. So like I said, we're working with the intro, and the intro is very important because it is the first thing people are going to hear when they hit play on your track on SoundCloud. It is going to overall just kind of set the mood for the track, and the listeners, if they're grabbed by the intro, then you know you've made it well. If they're not grabbed by the intro and you have to wait till the drop for them to enjoy the song, then it's probably not that great of an intro. So we're just going to work with those ideas. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the drop that we have so far, I'm going to scoot it over this much. So we're going to have this much of an intro to work with. However, the intro itself is actually not going to be this long. It's actually going to be half this long. It's going to be this part right here. And after we make the intro, like I said, the next episode we're going to go into the build up, which is going to be right there. And then that'll be the beginning of our song. So just as a refresher, let me play the song that we have so far. Alright, I think it sounds pretty nice, and I think it is worthy of a good intro. So let's start. Alright, so what I like to do to start the intro, I like to take a lot of kind of inspiration from what we've done from the drop, and I can take a lot of the layers and melodic elements, such as, just the background stuff, and put that in the intro, and that is first of all going to help tie the intro and the drop together, and it just gives me something good to work with. So I think I'll start just with this ARP, because this ARP does not sound half bad. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these melodic parts and I'm just going to smush them together. So we no longer have this long empty space. We're just going to go from melodic part directly to melodic part. So it's a little less boring. So let's just loop that for the intro right now. I think this art needs to be a little more powerful, so I just merged the clips, and now I'm going to go in and make some edits. And I think what I'm going to do is just clone it and then change a little bit about the preset itself. All right, so I made some changes to the ARP, and this is what it sounds like now. It does have to be louder though, so we're gonna click this ARP channel, we're gonna right click, we're gonna go File, and then Save Mixture Track State As, but now we're gonna click and drag it right onto 20 right there. So now we have another ARP channel with exactly the same stuff going on. So now we just route this into the second ARP channel, which is 20. We can call this ARP Intro, and then just move it right beside ARP. So now that I have that pattern down, I'm actually going to create an automation clip for this open knob, and it's going to sound like this. And then what we're also going to need is definitely a low pass filter doing something like this. That sounds very nice, so I'm just going to create an automation clip for this as well. Alright, and definitely what we're going to need here is also this reggae kind of guitar skank. But once again, we're going to have to make it unique because it needs to be a lot louder. So make unique. And then we're going to just do the same thing here and just clone the channel. So now those offbeat guitar sounds mixed with the ARP sound like this. Which I think they layer together pretty nicely. Now the next thing I want to do is take this brass hit right here, which is very kind of, flat and dry by itself. And I want to kind of work with that to use it in the intro. So I have this brass hit now with a ton of reverb, making it nice and long, and I want to start out by going like this. Or just somewhere around there, because I think it sounds pretty nice and would work well for the intro. So let's create an automation clip for this low pass filter. Now when we put the two brass hits right there and there, we're going to create the automation clip that goes up. Alright, so all this so far sounds pretty good. But what we need is an impact at the very beginning. It needs an impact. And you'd be surprised how much a good impact will really fill everything out. Like this is an impact from actually one of the free packs that Ghost Hack sent out if you were on the mailing list, and you probably got an email about it. And this is the impact. It has like thunder rolling in the background and stuff like that. I think it's really cool. So I'm just going to route this into its own channel. So I'll just turn it down a tad, and this is what it sounds like with everything else. So just that impact really filled out this intro. Which also means that I think we can kind of bring up this cutoff for the brass. What I'm also going to use in this intro is these rides that we have going right here that sound like this just by themselves. I think those will become very useful actually. Extend them out, make sure that they are the full length. They definitely have to be filtered and turned down, like there's stuff that needs to be done. I think actually what I'm going to do is just use this EQ right here, which I've turned the main thing down like -7 or something like that. And then I'm going to take this shelf. It's not a low pass filter, it's just a shelf. And I'm going to go like this. Because I think that's going to give like the effect of a low pass filter, but not all the way. Like it's a mix of volume rising and a filter rising. So I'm going to create an automation clip for two things. I'm going to create an automation clip for the dry wet of this like EQ in general, so I can just turn it off after this modulation is done and we get to the drop. And then I'm going to create an automation clip for the actual cutoff here. So I'm just going to go all the way up for the cutoff and make sure the automation clip looks something like this. So it just goes up and then turns off when the drop comes. The next thing I'm going to do is actually really fun. I'm going to take these brass hits. I'm going to actually record it out, and I'm just going to do this once. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up an Edison after all this processing. So let's pull up an Edison. Then I'm going to hit on input and then just hit play. See, just trim the edges right here and get rid of this brass hit. All I want is this one right here. And I'm just going to drag it into the playlist so we have this just audio brass hit. And now I can reverse it so it kind of slides upward. And what that is going to do is it's going to create a really nice kind of sliding in effect for this brass hit and for the brass hit that's going to come when I do the build up. Of course, it has to also get filtered, so let's just run it through 16. I know in this situation it will be running through all the effects twice since I recorded it after all of this, all the reverb and dimension expanding and stuff like this, but this is just a little slide upward. I don't think a little extra bit of effect is going to mess with it too much. So now we have a cool sliding in effect for the brass. Another thing I can definitely use is a sub-bass drop. And this is very, very common in a lot of music, not even just like dubstep and stuff like this. This is used in all kinds of EDM, trap, even like metal and stuff like that. It's used a lot because it's pretty nice and it fills out the spectrum. And the last thing I think I would do in this situation, you don't need to do it at all. This is not something you need to do. This is just something I like to do. I like to add either like some weird sound effects or like a voiceover, like some kind of vocal thing in the beginning, because I think it can make the track sound really, really cool, especially when you have such an ominous sounding like intro to this. Like I have these vocals right here, which are, I believe, from the show Dexter. I don't really know, but I remember hearing these vocals from another track, so I wouldn't use these vocals in a track. This is just good as an example because I remember hearing this in another. It was like a drum and bass track or something, and this is what they sound like.
I've lived in darkness a long time. Over the years, my eyes adjusted. I could see.
And I think when I put post-processing on them, it's going to sound really good in the track itself. All right, I added a bunch of processing to it, a bunch of different like EQing. In Serum, I added multiband compression, delay, reverb, chorus, flanger, more reverb after that, just like a bunch of effects. And this is what it sounds like by itself.
I've lived in darkness a long time. Over the years my eyes adjusted, I could see.
So all together, I think it sounds pretty cool, and it all sounds like this.
I've lived in darkness a long time. Over the years my eyes adjusted, I could see.
Again, I'm not the first person to use those vocals. That is from another track that I got that idea, and specifically those chops as well. This is just using it as an example of how you can use, vocals of that sort or any kind of sound effects of that sort. So either way, that wraps up this episode. I hope you enjoyed. I think the intro sounds pretty cool. It's really intense. It really kind of sets the mood for the rest of the track, but it's not that exciting that it's going to make the drop sound weak. Like it's really, I think it's going to do the drop justice. In the next episode, we are going to get to the build up, and then that is going to be the completion of the series. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the support, and I will see you in the next video. Happy producing.